We are standing in the heart of Bohol, Philippines. This is a landscape that defies conventional geography, a place where over 1,200 hills stretch across 50 square kilometers of tropical terrain. It is a visual enigma that challenges our understanding of how the natural world operates, and today we are going to peel back the layers of this geological masterpiece. Before we dive into the deep history of this alien landscape, make sure to subscribe to the channel and join our community of curious minds exploring the wonders of our planet. The Chocolate Hills of Bohol represent a surreal intersection of biology and geology, appearing almost like an intentional work of art. During the rainy season, these hills are draped in a vibrant, velvety green that blends into the surrounding jungle. However, as the tropical sun intensifies during the dry months, the vegetation undergoes a dramatic transformation. The lush grass withers and turns a deep, dusty brown, resembling rows upon rows of chocolate kisses dropped onto the island floor. This seasonal shift is the source of their iconic name, a phenomenon that has turned a remote province into a global destination. It is a sight that feels both peaceful and unsettling, as if the earth itself is changing its skin before your very eyes. When you look at these hills from a high vantage point, the first thing that strikes you is their uncanny uniformity. They are shaped like haycocks or cones, standing between 30 and 50 meters high, with the tallest reaching nearly 120 meters. They are not scattered randomly, but are clustered with a precision that seems almost mechanical, spread across the municipalities of Cogon, Batuan, and Sagbayan. For centuries, travelers wondered if these were the ruins of an ancient civilization or perhaps burial mounds for forgotten kings. Yet, science tells us a much older and more complex story, one that involves the very movement of the continents and the chemistry of water. To understand the Chocolate Hills, we must look toward the science of geomorphology and the concept of conical karst terrain. These hills are composed of marine limestone, a sedimentary rock formed from the accumulation of coral, shells, and marine organisms. Millions of years ago, this entire region was submerged beneath a shallow sea, acting as a massive graveyard for prehistoric life. Over eons, the weight of the ocean and the passage of time compressed these remains into thick layers of stone. The presence of fossils within the hills today serves as a silent witness to this underwater origin, reminding us that the ground we walk on was once a teeming reef. The birth of the hills began with a process known as tectonic uplift, where the internal pressures of the earth pushed the seabed above the waterline. Once exposed to the elements, the limestone became vulnerable to the relentless forces of erosion and chemical weathering. In a tropical environment like the Philippines, heavy rainfall is a constant, and rainwater is naturally slightly acidic. As this water seeped into the cracks of the limestone, it began to dissolve the rock from the inside out, a process geologists call carbonation. This gradual dissolution carved out the valleys and sharpened the peaks, leaving behind the symmetrical mounds we see today. This process of karst formation is rare because it requires a perfect balance of factors to produce such uniform shapes. The limestone must be thick and pure, the rainfall must be consistent, and the tectonic activity must be stable enough to allow the hills to form without being crushed. The Chocolate Hills are a testament to nature's ability to act as a slow, methodical sculptor, working over millions of years to achieve a result that looks almost manufactured. It is a reminder that the most beautiful things on Earth often require the longest periods of gestation. Every curve and slope of these hills is the result of 1 trillion raindrops hitting the stone at just the right angle. While the hills may appear barren or uniform from a distance, they host a resilient and specialized ecosystem. The primary cover is a hardy species of grass known as Imperata cylindrica or Cogon grass, which can survive the intense heat of the dry season. This grass is the reason for the hill's color change, as it enters a state of dormancy to conserve water when the rains stop. Between the hills, the landscape transitions into fertile plains where local farmers cultivate rice and other essential crops. The contrast between the wild, grassy slopes and the organized emerald green of the rice paddies creates a beautiful patchwork of human and natural existence. However, this ecosystem is far more fragile than its rugged appearance might suggest. The thin layer of soil covering the limestone is easily eroded if the vegetation is disturbed, leading to permanent damage to the hill's shape. Human activity, particularly in the form of quarrying and illegal construction, poses a significant threat to the integrity of the landscape. When a hill is carved into for building materials, it is not just a pile of dirt that is lost, but a geological record that took millions of years to create. Preserving the delicate balance between the agricultural needs of the people and the conservation of the hills is a constant struggle for local authorities. In the heart of Bohol, the Chocolate Hills are far more than just a tourist attraction. They are the soul of the provincial identity. They are featured prominently on the provincial flag and seal, symbolizing the natural wealth and the enduring spirit of the Boholano people. For the locals, the hills are a source of pride and a vital part of their economic livelihood through sustainable tourism. The government has recognized this by declaring the area a National Geological Monument, ensuring that its unique features are protected under Philippine law. There is also an ongoing effort to have the site included in the UNESCO World Heritage List, which would grant it international recognition and further protection. The cultural significance of the hills is also reflected in the vibrant folklore that has been passed down through generations of islanders. One of the most famous legends tells the story of two feuding giants who fought a bitter battle for many days. They hurled giant mounds of sand and stones at each other, but eventually grew tired and became friends, leaving the mess they made behind. Another more tragic tale speaks of a giant named Arogo who fell in love with a mortal woman named Aloya. When Aloya died, Arogo's uncontrollable weeping created the hills as his tears dried and turned into stone, a poetic explanation for a landscape born of grief. These myths provide a human connection to a landscape that can often feel cold and alien in its perfection. They reflect a time when people looked at the world around them and tried to make sense of the magnificent through the lens of their own emotions and experiences. While science provides us with the how of the Chocolate Hills, folklore provides us with the why, filling the gaps with magic and wonder. Both perspectives are essential to understanding the full scope of this location, as they represent the dual nature of our relationship with the Earth. We are both observers of its processes and participants in its stories. The economy of Bohol is inextricably linked to the health of these formations. Thousands of families depend on the tourism industry, working as guides, drivers, and hospitality staff at the various viewing decks in Carmen and Sagbayan. The influx of visitors from around the world provides the capital necessary for local infrastructure and social programs. Yet this reliance on tourism creates a paradox where the very people who love the hills may inadvertently contribute to their degradation. Balancing the foot traffic of millions of visitors with the need to keep the hills pristine is a challenge that requires constant innovation and strict regulation. Historical development in the region has often been a tale of survival and adaptation. During the colonial era, the dense forests surrounding the hills provided cover for local resistance movements against foreign rule. The hills themselves acted as natural fortresses, their repetitive shapes disorienting those unfamiliar with the terrain. Over time, as the province modernized, the focus shifted from defense to development, leading to the creation of roads and viewing complexes. This evolution reflects the broader history of the Philippines, a nation that has constantly navigated the line between preserving its heritage and embracing the future. Modern challenges have tested the resilience of the Chocolate Hills in ways that the ancient world never did. On October 15, 2013, a powerful 7.2 magnitude earthquake struck the island of Bohol. The tremors were so violent that they caused some of the hills to fracture, and the main viewing deck in Carmen was severely damaged. It was a sobering reminder that even a monument made of stone is not permanent and is subject to the violent whims of a changing planet. The recovery process took years, requiring a careful touch to restore the infrastructure without further damaging the natural formations. In addition to seismic threats, the region is increasingly dealing with the effects of a changing climate. Extreme heat waves have become more common, leading to spontaneous grass fires that scorch the sides of the hills during the dry season. These fires strip away the protective vegetation, exposing the limestone and accelerating the process of erosion. When the rains finally return, they wash away the unprotected soil, potentially altering the symmetrical shapes that make the hills so famous. It is a clear sign that the protection of the Chocolate Hills is not just a local issue, but one that is connected to the global environment. The conflict between development and protection reached a boiling point in recent years, with the controversy surrounding a resort built within the protected zone. This event sparked a national debate about land ownership and the enforcement of environmental laws in the Philippines. It highlighted the gaps in the system where economic interests can sometimes override conservation efforts if the authorities are not vigilant. The public outcry that followed showed that the people of the Philippines are deeply committed to protecting their natural treasures. This activism is a vital component of modern conservation, as it holds those in power accountable for the stewardship of the land. Looking at the Chocolate Hills requires us to think in terms of deep time, a scale that dwarfs the human lifespan. We see a snapshot of a process that has been occurring for millions of years and will continue long after we are gone. This perspective brings a certain weight to our actions, reminding us that we are merely temporary guardians of these ancient forms. The hills teach us about the power of persistence, as the soft touch of rainwater can eventually dismantle a mountain of stone. They are a physical manifestation of the idea that small, consistent actions can lead to monumental changes over time. What do you think is the greatest threat to our natural wonders today? The forces of nature itself, or the choices we make as a society? Can a landscape truly be protected if it is also a source of economic wealth? These are the questions that we must grapple with as we move into an uncertain future. If you found this exploration of the Chocolate Hills thought-provoking, please share your perspective in the comments below. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the most extraordinary places on our planet.